Okay, happy Thursday. As always, I deeply appreciate your continued attendance and practice. Every time we sit, we make the world better. Right? We make our inner world better, and then we are of benefit to others. And sometimes, some of the services we do, we say things like, we dedicate the merit of this pure practice to, and then we dedicate it to various people and things. But the important point is there's merit in what we're up to here. And I mean, there's versions of Buddhism where you're like accumulating merit, right? Like you have a sack of merit somewhere, and if you accumulate enough, something good happens in the future, or when you die or something like that. In Zen we don't do that. But we do acknowledge in the Mahayana tradition that the benefit that we create in ourselves, the awareness, the enlightenment, the awakening we create in ourselves benefits others just by virtue of the fact that when we encounter others, we can cause them to suffer less, we can suffer less ourselves, we can be more present, more aware of more benefit. So with that in mind, every time I sit down and do one of these talks and I look and I see anybody here at all, it's like, awesome, someone's here. That means someone's practicing. That means we're being of benefit. So the koan tonight is case 46 from the Mumonkan, and it's called Step Forward from the Top of a Pole. So I want you to imagine like a flagpole, right? And it says, Master Sekiso said, from the top of a pole 100 feet high, so that's 10 stories, right? How do you step forward? An ancient master also said that one sitting at the top of a pole 100 feet high, even if he has attained it, has not yet been truly enlightened. He must step forward from the top of the pole 100 feet high and manifest his whole body in the 10 directions. Mumon's comment. If you can step forward and turn back, is there anything you dislike as unworthy? But even so, tell me, from the top of a 100-foot pole, how do you step forward? Sa! So, step forward from the top of the pole, right? Any ideas? How do you step forward from the top of a 100-foot pole? So, this is pointing at the idea of a couple things, but one of the things this is pointing at is taking a risk, right? We find ourselves at the top of 100-foot poles all the time in our lives, right? A 100-foot pole is, imagine, what does it feel like to be like, at the precipice, right? Better be careful, right? Don't want to fall. It's a self-conscious feeling. And there's something about sort of fully inhabiting the moment, fully inhabiting our authentic selves, right? That feels terrifying. Because it didn't say a 10-foot pole or a 5-foot pole, right? Like if you step off a 100-foot pole, you die, right? So they're not like, the fear that we feels that way. A lot of times on the spiritual path, if you're really doing it, like we feel like we're on top of a 100-foot pole. We feel like, if I draw that boundary with my dysfunctional family member, or if I, go back to graduate school and start that new career, or if I end that dysfunctional relationship, or if I, take up a new hobby, or if I, like reveal some aspect of myself that I've kept hidden from everyone, right? That I'll die. That's a common, not literally die, but like it feels like that. It's that anxious feeling. We carry that with us. And so what these teachers are saying is like, jump into your life. Right? Don't live in fear defending, who it is that you think that you are, because that isn't even real. This version of you that you're afraid to reveal isn't you either. Right? You can't get stuck in any one place. So that's the paradox, right? Like, if you if you quit your job or if you break up with your partner, right? All of those things on the level of form, like it can be scary to embrace a new version of your identity and to share that with others. But then also at the level of emptiness, that doesn't even define like all of who you are. Because everything, ultimately you're formless. Ultimately there's no self. But when we're in that place of fear, we're stuck. And so we jump, right? We jump into being that fully authentic version of who we are across all of the dimensions of our life, whether that's to do with your identity or whether that's to do with your spirituality or your boundaries or your job. We have all these different dimensions of life that we work within and through, and that we get stuck in, where we have to say, oh, well, I can't do this because I'm a good son, or I can't do this because a religious tradition tells me not to, or I can't be that because there's not enough money, right? And we have to work with all the ingredients we have, but we also have to just, at some point, just jump. And this kind of brings me to the other side of this koan, which is we're already falling, right? You think jumping is optional? Like there's no pole. You're in free fall all the time. Like all of us, all of the time. Like life is going to end, right? We're all in. We're all in free fall, but we just don't know where the ground is, right? The ground is coming up towards us, but we don't know when. So like, why would we not be fully alive and fully authentic and fully engaged and fully ourselves, right? Fully compassionate. Why not? Why not? We're already in free fall. We're already off the pole. And this statement, they say, this cool thing here, they say, even if he has attained it, has not been truly enlightened, right? So, we climb the mountain of enlightenment, right? We have some level of spiritual attainment. We have some depth to our practice, but we still haven't, so even if you've attained it, right? Even if you've experienced, these profound states, like if you haven't jumped off, you have to throw it all away. We've all run across, my wife is kind of obsessed with some of these cultish documentaries like on Netflix and stuff. I don't know if you guys have run across this genre, but there's a genre of like documentaries about cult leaders that is kind of popular right now. And she was showing me one last night about this woman who was essentially going around calling herself Mother God. Right? She's calling herself God. And so then she gathered all these followers, and she's like, but you had this very like, I'm God, like you must follow me, right? And you could feel it. It doesn't feel free. It doesn't feel alive. It doesn't feel open, right? But we can like it's available right now. Like there's a famous koan where the teacher says, "Oh Master," he says to himself every morning, "Oh Master, are you awake?" "Yes, I am." "Do not be deceived by others anytime, anywhere." "I won't." And so, it's all self-talk. He's a little cognitive behavioral therapy of the ancient world. But one way of looking at it is he's saying, he's being his own master. I'm not your master. You are your master. Right? Only you can jump off the pole. Only you can notice that you're in free fall and fully live your life. And I can point at it and suggest it and give you answers give you responses to your koans and, talk about life and facilitate retreats and do bows and chanting. We do all the things, right? And they're supportive things. All of those support the awakened state. But then there's something that left still, that leap, right? That leap into the now, that leap into your life, that freedom, that leap into freedom. And usually it's a pretty good indicator. If you are looking at a step you want to take and you're like, oh, there it is. Like, there's the edge. Like, practice with that. Bring that to the cushion. That's, because leaping off of the pole is not, it's not like, okay, here we go. I mean, maybe it is, but a lot of times it can be gentle. A lot of times it can be like, okay, like, that's where I'm scared. Like, what am I really afraid of? Why don't I want to draw that boundary? Why don't I want to apply for that job? Why don't I want to break up with that person? Why don't I want to tell that person I love how I really feel? Why don't I want to allow myself to attempt that new art form? Like, whatever it is, like, bring it into your sitting. And wait. And the koan, it mentions, like, looking back up, It says, what does it say? It says in the comment, he says, is there anything you dislike as unworthy as you turn back? So imagine you've fallen off the pole, right? So now you're like, ah! Like, well, while you're doing that, is there anything you don't like? Right? Like, we have lots of preferences, Go to work and sit in doorways and talk about, annoying policies or something, right? Or sit around and talk about politics. Could you believe that debate last night, right? We have preferences. We all have preferences, But when we're falling from the 10,000 or from the 100-foot pole, right, we don't have preferences. So who is it that doesn't have any preferences? Who is it that isn't worried about it and disliking anything? And how do we get there? How do we get to a place where our opinions and our preferences and our ideas about life don't bother us quite so much? Something has to be let go. It's like we're all in free fall and we're pretending that everything's fine. There's a silly comedy movie from a long time ago called Eric the Viking. And it's this, I think Eric Idle made the movie, but this Viking is traveling all over the place. And the Viking goes to Atlantis, which of course makes no sense, but it doesn't matter. But so they're at Atlantis, and Atlantis is sinking. And the leader of Atlantis is like on this little higher place has not sunk yet. And he goes, everyone stay calm, this is not happening. Like, that's our ego, right? It's going to be fine. This is not happening. I'll just be in denial. It'll all be good. It doesn't work. Stay calm. This is not happening. I suppose from a Zen perspective, we could flip it and be like, well, no, it's not happening. Nothing's happening. But no, that's not what this is pointing at. Right? What this is pointing at is our capacity to, we're falling and we're pretending everything's fine, right? Everything's not fine, though. Everything just is, right? Some things are fine and some things aren't. It just is. So whatever is, we look back in that present, alive, fully invigorated place. Preferences fall away. It's like changing diapers. Nobody likes changing diapers. No one's like, oh, woohoo, more diapers, right? But when you're doing it, and it's your child, and you love your child, you don't typically feel any kind of way. You just do it. Right? You just do the thing because it's what the moment requires. We can live like that. And the thing that supports us living like that is our practice. That we learn. Yeah, we learn to be still on the cushion so that we can learn to be still when we're walking around in the world. And then the free fall isn't quite so terrifying, right? Because it's not like we're in free fall alone, right? We're all in free fall together. So we can encounter someone and they can, this happens in my line of work all the time because, I run this clinic and people burst into my office and they're like, ah! They have some kind of chaotic presentation where they're upset or angry or stressed. And I can look at that person and go, oh, you're in free fall right now. Me too. It's going to be okay. Come on. Let's see what we can do. Right? as opposed to like, don't you reveal your free falliness to me. That reminds me that I'm also in free fall, which makes me feel scared, so I need to shut you down. Don't do that, right? It's the opposite of compassion. Compassion is, I'm in free fall, you're in free fall, we're in free fall together. Let's see what we can do with that, right? Since it's groundless, since we're falling, we might as well fall in a manner that takes care of each other. Yeah. Step off the pole. Or rather, stop pretending you haven't already jumped. So the poem for this is, the eye in the forehead has gone blind, and he has been misled by the stuck pointer on the scale. He has thrown away his body and laid down his life. A blind man is leading other blind men. So, third eye, right? The third eye has gone blind, right? And he's been misled by the stuck pointer on the scale, right? So there's nothing to measure, right? You have no psychic abilities, you have no spiritual superpowers. The scales aren't measuring anything, right? You've thrown away your body and laid down your life, right? You're already falling. And a blind man is leading other blind men, right? There's no, that's blind man leading other blind people. I know it's old text that says men, but we will discard the ambient sexism and move toward the message, which is, all of us together, all people, right, are the blind leading the blind. Because none of us know where the bottom is. So in this place, then what? Right? That's the question. Like, then what? Because that can all sound very depressing, right? But it doesn't have to be. Right? Then what? Because there's freedom in that too. That therein lies the freedom. If we're all in this together, therein lies the freedom. You can just have each other's back, fall together. Okay, I think that's enough.